Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Attorney General Bondi. The Department of Justice is supposed to play a vital role in defending our Constitution, upholding the rule of law, and keeping the American people safe. Unfortunately, it's currently failing on all these fronts, and this budget request will make a bad situation even worse. We are witnessing a level of lawlessness from this administration that is unprecedented in scale and scope. Indeed, when asked, President Trump said he didn't know whether he was required to comply with the Constitution of the United States. Instead of defending the rule of law, DOJ attorneys are being deployed to aid and abet in lawbreaking. Like just yesterday, Madam Attorney General, when the administration took, I believe, the unprecedented step of suing all the Maryland Federal District Court judges because of actions they took to protect habeas corpus and the constitutional right of due process.
Van Hollen draws attention to an incident that took place just the day before, in which the administration took the extraordinary step of suing all Maryland Federal District Court judges over rulings aimed at preserving habeas corpus and due process rights. To him, this action epitomizes a dangerous disregard for judicial independence and constitutional safeguards. The senator's argument becomes even more disturbing as he details a pattern of firings within the DOJ that target career civil servants who were fulfilling their oath to the Constitution. In his telling, these dismissals are not about poor performance or misconduct, but are instead retaliatory actions against individuals whose only offense was their commitment to truth and justice. Over a dozen prosecutors who had been assigned to assist special counsel Jack Smith were fired by the then acting attorney general in January, an action Van Hollen characterizes as punitive and politically motivated. The purge did not end there. He accuses the current attorney general of continuing this trend, pointing to the firing of the pardon attorney for refusing to restore gun rights to a close friend of President Trump who had a domestic violence conviction.
To date, the administration has faced nearly 300 legal challenges in federal courts. There are currently in place a huge number of preliminary injunctions and temporary restraining orders issued by judges appointed by presidents of both parties, including appointed by President Trump. At the same time, patriotic career civil servants have been fired for upholding their constitutional oaths. In January, the then acting attorney general fired more than a dozen prosecutors simply because they had been assigned to work with special counsel Jack Smith. And dozens of others have also been wrongfully terminated. And you picked up where the acting attorney general left off when you fired the pardon attorney after she declined to restore the gun rights to a close friend of President Trump with a domestic violence conviction. Perhaps most troubling, Madam Attorney General, is you have fired attorneys like the acting deputy director of the Office of Immigration Litigation simply for telling the truth in court. As he said yesterday, the whistleblower, in a complaint filed, quote, "I didn't sign up to lie." That sends a terrible message to every DOJ attorney who wants to both do their job and uphold their professional ethics and integrity. While spending taxpayer resources to defend this lawbreaking, the administration has proposed a budget that is a gift to our foreign adversaries, to the drug cartels, and to illegal firearms traffickers. Why do I say that? Let's look at each of those categories. On your first day, you disbanded the FBI Foreign Influence Task Force Office, which was established to combat secret malign influence campaigns by China, Russia, and other adversaries.
On the very first day in office, the Attorney General disbanded the FBI Foreign Influence Task Force, a unit specifically designed to detect and counter covert operations by hostile nations like China and Russia. Eliminating such a unit, he argues, opens the door for adversaries to spread disinformation, conduct cyber attacks, and manipulate institutions without facing the same level of coordinated resistance as before. In tandem with this move, the scope of criminal charges under the Foreign Agents Registration Act was restricted, effectively reducing the ability to hold individuals accountable for working on behalf of foreign powers without proper disclosure. The budget also delivers a heavy blow to the fight against illegal drugs. Cuts to the Drug Enforcement Administration will shrink its capacity to dismantle drug trafficking networks, And the elimination of funding for the organized crime drug enforcement task forces will remove an essential hub that coordinates multiple agencies in targeting the most dangerous cartels. In Van Hollen's telling, this is not just about losing resources. It is about losing the synergy and collaboration that make these operations effective. Without such coordination, the most sophisticated criminal enterprises will find it easier to operate across jurisdictions and avoid detection.
On that day, you also restricted the scope of criminal charges under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Your budget cuts the Drug Enforcement Administration and eliminates funding for the organized crime drug enforcement task forces, which coordinate interagency efforts to combat the worst drug trafficking cartels. And you're effectively dismantling efforts to go after illegal gun traffickers by attempting to dissolve the ATF. At the same time, this budget undermines local law enforcement by stripping away funding that's critical to protecting our local schools and reducing violent crime in rural communities. And many organizations that help the victims of crimes are running out of their fiscal year 25 funds because, for example, the Office of Justice Programs has only posted one grant solicitation for 2025. Meanwhile, under the guise of efficiency, your budget proposes to combine and significantly cut the three distinct DOJ grant-making agencies, including the Office on Violence Against Women, which you propose to slash by 30%. There is nothing efficient about reducing services to victims of crime.
According to Inspector General Michael Horowitz, such a cut would force the elimination of 140 positions. The impact of losing that many investigators and auditors would be profound, essentially bringing many oversight functions to a halt. Van Hollen stresses that oversight is not a bureaucratic luxury. It's an essential safeguard against abuse of power. When these systems are weakened, the risk of corruption, mismanagement, and unlawful conduct increases dramatically. To illustrate the stakes, Van Hollen recalls the role of the Inspector General's office in uncovering the FBI mishandling of sexual abuse allegations against former USA Gymnastics physician Larry Nassar. Without the investigative work of the OIG, he implies, the truth about that scandal might never have been fully exposed. The lesson, in his view, is clear. When oversight is weakened, justice for victims is delayed or denied, and systemic problems remain hidden. Van Hollen's criticism extends beyond budgetary cuts to the overall attitude of the DOJ leadership toward transparency. He notes that over the past 5 months, the department has failed to respond to 9 of his formal inquiries and has only answered 2 out of 38 letters sent by senior members of the Senate and House Judiciary Committees, including Senator Durbin and Congressman Raskin. To him, this pattern of non-responsiveness reflects a broader culture of avoidance, where accountability is evaded rather than embraced. The combination of reduced staffing in critical oversight divisions, deep budget cuts to investigative offices, and an unwillingness to engage with congressional oversight requests paints a troubling picture. It suggests that the DOJ is not only failing to police itself, but is also actively insulating itself from external scrutiny. For Van Hollen, this is not a matter of political rivalry, but a fundamental threat to the integrity of the justice system.
Your budget also indicates that transparency and integrity are not priorities of the Justice Department. Over the last 5 months, you've decimated the public integrity section. Public reports indicate that this office went from 30 attorneys to as few as 5. Your budget would also slash the department's oversight watchdog, the Office of Inspector General, by $42 million. Inspector General Horowitz told me that these cuts would result in the elimination of 140 positions, which would bring investigations to a halt and interfere with the IG's ability to conduct oversight of the department. I would note that it was an OIG investigation that helped uncover the FBI's serious mishandling of allegations of sexual abuse against former USA Gymnastics physician Larry Nassar. Why target these key areas of public integrity, oversight, and accountability? So, Attorney General Bondi, I hope you'll answer our questions today. I say that because your department has failed to respond to any of the 9 inquiries I have made and have responded to only 2 of 38 letters sent by my colleagues, the ranking members of the Senate and House Judiciary Committees, Senator Durbin and Congressman Raskin. So, Madam Attorney General, we have much to discuss this morning. I look forward to your testimony.